The emergency session of the Galactic Council had been called for the third time in 2 standard cycles. Representatives from 12 different species filled the circular chamber, their various forms of agitation clear despite their alien physiologies. The Zephyrian delegates' crystalline form flickered with nervous energy, while the Korath ambassador's tentacles writhed in visible distress. Admiral Thex of the Hegemony Fleet stood at the center podium, his forearms gesturing at the holographic display floating above them. The star map showed the Sol system, a small yellow star with 9 planets orbiting peacefully. Nothing about it suggested danger or mystery, yet it had become the most feared location in known space. "Esteemed colleagues," Thex began, his voice carrying the weight of command that had earned him respect across a dozen worlds. "We face an unprecedented situation. In the past year alone, 17 separate military expeditions have approached the Sol system. None have returned," a murmur rippled through the assembly. The Valkyrian representative, a being that resembled a walking tree with luminescent bark, spoke in its melodic voice. "Admiral, surely you mean some have returned with casualties? No force simply vanishes without trace." "That is precisely what I mean," Thex replied grimly. "Complete disappearance. No distress signals, no debris fields, no survivors. The fleets approach the outer edge of the Sol system and then nothing. Communication ceases entirely." The implications hung heavy in the recycled air of the chamber. These weren't small scouting parties that had vanished. The missing fleets included some of the most powerful military forces in the galaxy. The Krillian Armada, known for their planet-cracking dreadnoughts, the Nexus Collective's cyber warfare specialists, even the feared Void Stalkers whose stealth technology was supposedly unmatched. Council Speaker Morpheus, an ancient being whose species had guided galactic affairs for millennia, leaned forward in its hover chair. "Tell us about the human world, Admiral. What makes this particular system so significant?" Thex manipulated the hologram, zooming in on the 3rd planet from the star. "Earth, home to a species that achieved spaceflight less than a century ago. They have primitive nuclear technology, basic chemical rockets, and what appears to be early quantum communication. By all our measurements, they should barely qualify for first contact protocols. Yet somehow," interrupted the Zephyrian delegate, its crystalline voice sharp with frustration, "they have made 17 of our fleets disappear without a trace. This defies all logic." The truth was that nobody understood what was happening. The first fleet to vanish had been the Korath Expeditionary Force, sent to establish peaceful contact with Earth's inhabitants 6 months ago. When they failed to report back, a search and rescue mission was dispatched. That fleet vanished too. Then came the military investigators, followed by specialized reconnaissance units, each more advanced than the last. All met the same mysterious fate. "What do we actually know about these humans?" asked the Valkyrian representative. Thex brought up a new display showing intercepted Earth transmissions. They appear to be a relatively young species, still divided into territorial nations. They have achieved atomic energy, but haven't yet mastered faster-than-light travel. Their longest space missions barely reach their own moon. They broadcast primitive electromagnetic signals into space. Entertainment programs, news broadcasts, commercial advertisements. The assembled delegates studied the images of humans going about their daily lives. They looked unremarkable. Bipedal, relatively small, no obvious natural weapons or defenses. Their cities showed signs of industrial development, but nothing that suggested advanced military capability. "Perhaps," suggested the Krillian war chief, his scarred exoskeleton gleaming under the chamber lights, "there is something else in that system. An automated defense network left by an ancient civilization? A spatial anomaly that destroys ships?" "We considered that," Thex replied. "Long-range sensors detect no unusual energy signatures. No artificial structures beyond what the humans have built themselves. The system appears completely normal until our ships cross the outer planetary boundary. Then they simply stop existing." The mystery had paralyzed galactic expansion in that direction. Trade routes were being rerouted around the Sol system, adding weeks to interstellar journeys. Military planners were reassigning fleets to avoid the area entirely. What had started as a routine first contact mission had become a galactic crisis. "The humans must be aware of what's happening," said the Nexus Collective representative, its mechanical voice echoing through translation circuits. 17 fleets don't disappear without someone noticing." "That's another puzzle," Thex admitted. According to our monitoring of their communications, they show no signs of knowing about any of this. Their governments aren't on alert. Their military forces haven't been mobilized, and their media continues to focus on local issues. Either they're completely oblivious to the fate of our fleets, or they're hiding their involvement extremely well. The weight of the situation pressed down on the assembly. The galaxy's most advanced civilizations, beings who had mastered faster-than-light travel, energy weapons, and dimensional manipulation, were being confounded by a species that had barely left its home planet. Council Speaker Morpheus finally broke the silence. We need answers. The current situation is unsustainable. Trade is suffering. Our military forces are stretched thin avoiding the Sol system. And our citizens are beginning to panic about this unknown threat. What do you propose? Asked the Zephyrian delegate. We form a joint investigative commission, Morpheus declared. Representatives from each species using our combined knowledge and technology. We approach the Sol system together, pool our resources, and discover once and for all what is happening to our fleets. The proposal sparked immediate debate. Some delegates argued it was too dangerous, potentially sacrificing the galaxy's best minds to whatever force was claiming their ships. Others insisted it was necessary. The mystery had to be solved before panic spread through civilized space. As the arguments continued, Admiral Thex stared at the holographic image of Earth spinning peacefully in space. Somewhere on that blue and green world, 7 billion humans went about their lives apparently unaware that they had become the galaxy's greatest enigma. The irony wasn't lost on him. The very species they had intended to welcome into the galactic community had instead become its most feared mystery. The fate of 17 fleets hung in the balance, and somewhere in the Sol system lay the answer to a question that was reshaping galactic civilization. What power did humanity possess that could make entire armadas vanish without a trace? 3 weeks after the emergency council session, the most advanced investigative fleet in galactic history assembled at the neutral station orbiting Kepler Prime. The Joint Commission had been approved, and each major species contributed their finest ships and most brilliant minds to solve the Sol system mystery. Dr. Lyra Zenthis of the Ascendant Archives stood before the massive observation window, watching the assembled fleet with growing unease. As the galaxy's foremost xenoarchaeologist, she had been chosen to lead the scientific investigation. Her crystalline blue skin shimmered with bioluminescent patterns that betrayed her nervous excitement. Impressive sight, isn't it? Came a voice behind her. She turned to see Commander Voss, the Terran Defense Coalition's liaison officer. His presence on the mission had caused considerable controversy. After all, they were investigating what might be his own species' involvement in the disappearances. Commander, Lyra acknowledged with a slight nod. I must admit, your participation in this investigation raises questions. Voss smiled, an expression that looked strange to most alien species but had become familiar through diplomatic exchanges. I understand the concern, Doctor. But consider this. If my people are somehow involved, wouldn't you want someone who understands human psychology and culture to help interpret what you find? The fleet before them represented the pinnacle of galactic engineering. The hegemony had contributed the battlecruiser Eternal Vigilance, bristling with sensors capable of detecting subatomic particles across light years. The Nexus Collective provided the research vessel Quantum Insight, its artificial intelligence matrix more powerful than entire planetary computer networks. The Zephyrian Empire sent their flagship Crystal Harmony, whose energy-based crew could survive in conditions that would kill most organic beings. Dr. Zenthis activated her personal communicator. All department heads report to Briefing Room Alpha. We depart for the Sol system in 6 hours. The briefing room buzzed with tension as representatives from a dozen species gathered around the holographic tactical display. Each being present represented centuries of accumulated knowledge and experience, yet none of them had any real idea what they might encounter. Our approach will be methodical, announced Fleet Admiral Corex, the mission's military commander. His Krillian heritage meant he stood nearly 3 meters tall, his chitinous armor scarred from countless battles. We'll establish observation posts at increasing distances from the Sol system, monitoring for any anomalous readings. Dr. Zenthis pulled up a detailed scan of the region. What puzzles me most is the complete lack of debris. When ships are destroyed even by the most advanced weapons, There should be some trace. Energy signatures, metal fragments, radiation patterns. But our long-range sensors detect absolutely nothing. Commander Voss studied the display with professional interest. On Earth we have a saying, the absence of evidence is not evidence of absence. Perhaps we're looking for the wrong things. What do you mean? Asked Dr. Kellick, the Valkyrian biologist whose plant-like form swayed gently as he spoke. Well, Voss continued, what if the ships aren't being destroyed? What if they're being relocated? The suggestion sent ripples of discussion through the assembled scientists. The idea of instantly transporting entire fleets was theoretically possible but required technology
far beyond what anyone in the
galaxy had achieved. The energy requirements alone would be astronomical, protested Engineer Thrixis, her mechanical arms clicking nervously. A single dreadnought masses over 50 million tons. Moving 17 fleets would require the power output of multiple stars. Which brings us back to the central question, Admiral Corex interjected. How could a species that barely has nuclear fusion accomplish something that advanced? Dr. Zenthis activated a new section of the display, showing intercepted Earth communications from the past month. I've been studying their transmissions, looking for any signs that they're aware of our missing fleets. What I found is fascinating. The screen filled with news broadcasts, scientific programs, and entertainment media from Earth. Humans going about their daily lives, discussing local politics, sporting events, and technological developments. There was no mention of alien contact, no emergency broadcasts, no military mobilization. Either they're completely unaware of what's happening, Dr. Zenthis continued, or they possess deception capabilities that rival our most advanced intelligence operations. Commander Voss frowned as he watched footage of children playing in Earth's parks, families gathering for meals, scientists working in laboratories. I can tell you with absolute certainty that if 17 alien fleets had approached Earth and my government knew about it, there would be mass panic. Humans don't handle the unknown well. We tend to assume the worst and prepare for conflict. Perhaps, suggested Dr. Kellick thoughtfully, the humans aren't responsible directly. What if something else is protecting them? A guardian species that hasn't revealed itself? The idea sparked new debate among the commission members. The galaxy was vast, and there were certainly species that preferred to remain hidden. Some civilizations had developed beyond the need for galactic politics, choosing isolation over interaction. That would explain the lack of human awareness, agreed Engineer Thrixis. A protector species might eliminate threats without the humans ever knowing danger existed. Admiral Corex pulled up tactical readouts from the vanished fleets. But look at what we lost. The Void Stalkers had cloaking technology that should make them invisible to any known detection method. The Nexus Collective Fleet included ships that exist partially in subspace. Whatever is responsible for these disappearances can detect and eliminate threats across multiple dimensions of reality. The implications were staggering. They were potentially dealing with a force that operated beyond conventional physics, something that could reach into parallel dimensions and alternate realities to eliminate threats. There's another possibility we haven't considered, Commander Voss said quietly. The room fell silent as all attention focused on him. What if the missing fleets aren't missing at all? Explain, Dr. Zenthis demanded. What if they're being held somewhere? Captured rather than destroyed? If I were defending Earth and encountered obviously superior alien forces, I might try to contain them rather than risk open conflict. The suggestion changed the entire dynamic of their investigation. If the fleets were captured rather than destroyed, there might be survivors. The missing crews could still be alive somewhere, waiting for rescue. Dr. Zenthis began running calculations on her portable computer. If that's true, where could you hide 17 entire fleets? The energy signatures alone would be detectable across multiple star systems. Unless, Engineer Thrixis added slowly, they're being held somewhere our sensors can't reach. Inside a pocket dimension, perhaps, or in a temporal displacement field. Admiral Corex stood up, his massive form commanding attention. Speculation aside, we have a mission to complete. In 6 hours, we enter the Sol system and attempt to make contact with whatever force is responsible for these disappearances. Whether that's the humans themselves, their unknown protectors, or something else entirely. As the briefing concluded and the various delegates returned to their ships, Commander Voss remained behind, staring at the image of Earth floating in the holographic display. His homeworld looked so peaceful from space, so innocent and unthreatening. Yet somehow this small blue planet had become the source of the galaxy's greatest mystery. The investigation fleet began its final preparations, each crew member aware that they might be heading toward the same fate that had claimed 17 previous expeditions. But they also knew that the answers they sought could reshape galactic civilization's understanding of power, technology, and the true capabilities of species that seemed primitive on the surface. In 6 hours, they would discover whether humanity was the galaxy's greatest threat or its most carefully guarded secret. The joint investigation fleet dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of the Sol system, their sensors immediately beginning comprehensive scans of the surrounding space. Dr. Lyra Zenthis watched the incoming data streams with growing fascination as her instruments detected the familiar signatures of a young stellar system. All ships, maintain formation Delta 7. Admiral Corex's voice crackled through the communication array. Begin passive scanning only. We don't want to appear threatening until we understand what we're dealing with. Commander Voss stood beside Dr. Zenthis on the bridge of the Quantum Insight, his eyes fixed on the central display showing Earth's position deep within the system. It's strange, he murmured. Being this close to home but approaching as a potential enemy. Contact, announced Lieutenant Zalex from the sensor station, her hegemony training evident in her crisp report. Multiple artificial objects detected in the outer system. Configuration unknown. The main display shifted to show a three-dimensional map of the Sol system. Scattered throughout the outer regions beyond the orbit of Neptune, dozens of metallic objects hung in space. They appeared to be roughly cylindrical, each about the size of a small asteroid positioned at seemingly random intervals. Those aren't human constructions, Commander Voss said immediately. We don't have the technology to build anything that large, and we certainly can't place objects in stable orbits that far out. Dr. Zenthis enhanced the sensor readings, studying the mysterious objects. The metal composition is unusual. It's not matching any known alloys in our databases. The energy signatures are minimal, almost dormant. Engineer Thrixus's mechanical voice chimed in from the communication system. My ship's deep sensors are detecting internal complexity within those objects. They appear to be hollow, possibly containing sophisticated machinery. Admiral Corex made the decision to investigate. All ships advance slowly toward the nearest object. Maintain defensive formations and be prepared for immediate withdrawal. As the fleet moved deeper into the Sol system, the mysterious cylindrical objects remained completely inactive. No energy weapons charged, no defensive fields activated, no communication attempts were detected. They simply hung in space like silent sentinels. I'm reading 17 distinct object clusters, reported Dr. Kellak from the Velkarian research vessel. Each cluster contains multiple cylindrical structures. The total count is concerning. Dr. Zenthis understood immediately. How many objects total? 137 cylindrical structures grouped into 17 clusters. The same number as our missing fleets. The implication sent a chill through the investigation team. If each cluster represented a captured fleet, they were looking at the most sophisticated prison system ever encountered. But how could objects that showed minimal energy signatures contain entire battle groups? We're detecting movement within the nearest cluster, Lieutenant Zalex announced. Something large is shifting inside the central cylinder. On the main display, they watched as a section of the nearest cylindrical object began to open. The surface peeled back like flower petals, revealing a dark interior. Then, slowly, a familiar shape emerged from within. By the 7 suns, Admiral Corex breathed. That's the Korath dreadnought Piercing Dawn. That was the flagship of the first expedition. Indeed, the massive warship that emerged from the cylinder was clearly Korath in design, its characteristic spiral hull configuration unmistakable. But something was wrong. The ship's running lights were active, its engines showed power signatures, yet it remained completely motionless. Are they trying to communicate? Asked Commander Voss. Dr. Zenthis checked her instruments. No signals detected. The ship appears to be waiting. As they watched, more cylindrical objects began opening. One by one, the missing fleets emerged from their metallic prisons. Krillian battle cruisers, Nexus collective research vessels, Zephyrian energy ships, hegemony destroyers, all of them intact and apparently undamaged. This is incredible, Dr. Kellick whispered. Every ship we thought was destroyed is actually being preserved here. But preserved for what purpose? The captured vessels hung in space like a museum display, their crews presumably still alive inside but making no attempt to escape or communicate. Wait. Engineer Thrixus's voice cut through their amazement. I'm detecting an energy buildup from Earth's direction. Something massive is approaching. The fleet's sensors tracked a new contact rising from Earth's surface. Unlike the primitive chemical rockets they expected, this craft moved with impossible grace and speed. It appeared to be constructed from the same unknown metal as the cylindrical storage objects, its hull shimmering with barely contained energy. That's not human technology, Commander Voss said firmly. Earth doesn't have anything capable of faster-than-light travel, let alone something that's sophisticated. As the mysterious craft approached, Admiral Corex ordered all ships to defensive positions. Weapons remained unpowered to avoid appearing hostile, but they were ready to respond if attacked. The craft stopped precisely between the investigation fleet and the preserved alien vessels. It hung in space for several moments before a communication signal reached them, not through radio or quantum channels, but as a direct transmission that somehow bypassed their communication systems entirely. The voice that spoke was unmistakably human, but carrying an authority that seemed to resonate across dimensions. Unknown vessels, you are approaching a protected zone. State your intentions. Commander Voss stepped forward. This is Commander Marcus Voss of the Terran Defense Coalition. We're investigating the disappearance of several galactic fleets in this system. Commander Voss, the voice replied, and there was something almost amused in its tone. You're quite far from home for a species that supposedly can't achieve interstellar travel. Dr. Zenthus looked confused. How did they know about your species' technological limitations? And how are they communicating through our ship's hull? Before Commander Voss could respond, the voice continued. As for your missing fleets, they are safe and unharmed. They have been preserved pending the resolution of their intentions regarding Earth. Preserved? Admiral Corex demanded. Those crews have been held captive for months. What gives you the right to imprison representatives of sovereign galactic civilizations? The right of protection, the voice replied calmly. Earth is under our guidance, and we do not permit threats to approach unchallenged. Your fleets arrived armed and with hostile intentions toward a developing species. We came in peace, protested Dr. Kellick. The first expedition was a diplomatic mission. The first expedition carried planet-cracking weapons and conquest protocols, the voice corrected, as did all subsequent fleets. You came to evaluate Earth's resources and potential for exploitation, not to establish peaceful contact. The accusation hung in space between them. It was true that galactic first contact procedures included military assessment and resource evaluation, but these were standard protocols for any new species. Who are you? Dr. Zenthus asked. What species has the technology to capture entire fleets and preserve them in temporal stasis? We are not a species in the way you understand the term, the voice replied. We are what humanity becomes when given proper guidance and protection. We are Earth's future, reaching back through time to ensure its survival. Commander Voss felt his world shift. You're saying you're humans from the future? We are what you call your descendants, though the relationship is more complex than simple temporal progression. We exist across multiple time streams, ensuring that certain crucial events occur as they must. The revelation stunned the investigation fleet. They weren't dealing with an unknown alien species or hidden protectors. They were facing humanity itself, but a version of humanity that had somehow transcended normal space and time. The fleets you seek to rescue posed a threat to Earth's development. The future human voice continued. They were preserved rather than destroyed because we hoped eventually someone would come who could understand the situation properly. Admiral Corex struggled to process this information. Are you saying that all of our civilization's expansion efforts have been monitored by future humans? Only those that threaten species we have deemed crucial to the galaxy's proper development. Earth is one such world. There are others scattered across space and time. Dr. Zenthus realized the enormity of what they'd discovered. You're gardeners. You're cultivating the galaxy's development, preventing advanced species from interfering with younger ones. A crude but essentially accurate description, the voice agreed. The question now is, what will you do with this knowledge? The silence that followed the future human's question stretched across space like a held breath. Dr. Zenthis felt her scientific worldview crumbling and reforming as she tried to process the implications of time-traveling human gardeners protecting their own past. "We need proof," Admiral Corex finally said, his military training asserting itself despite the overwhelming nature of the revelation. Anyone could claim to be from the future. "Reasonable skepticism," the voice acknowledged. "Commander Voss, please access your personal files dated 3 days ago. Review the document titled Childhood Memories Private." Commander Voss looked startled. "How could you possibly know about my private files?" "Access the document, Marcus." With shaking hands, Voss activated his personal datapad and navigated to the file. His face went pale as he read. "This document contains memories I wrote down 3 days ago about my 7th birthday party. Specific details that no one else could know. But there's additional text here that I didn't write." "Read it aloud," the voice requested. Voss cleared his throat. "The clown at your party was named Giggles, and he accidentally popped the balloon shaped like a dog. You cried until your grandmother gave you her special chocolate chip cookies. You've never told anyone about crying over that balloon because you thought it made you seem weak. We remember because we were there, Marcus. We are you, grown beyond your current understanding of possibility." Dr. Zenthis watched Commander Voss's face cycle through disbelief, wonder, and finally acceptance. "Only I could know those details," he whispered. "Now that we've established our identity," the future human voice continued, "perhaps we can discuss the situation more productively. Dr. Zenthis, you wish to understand our motivations. The answer lies in what you call the Great Filter." The term sent ripples of recognition through the investigation team. Every spacefaring civilization knew about the Great Filter theory. The idea that something prevented most species from advancing beyond a certain technological threshold. "We have seen the galaxy's future across multiple timeline branches," the voice explained. "In most of them, aggressive expansion by advanced civilizations leads to the extinction of younger species before they can contribute their unique perspectives to galactic development. The result is a sterile cosmos dominated by a handful of ancient empires." Engineer Thrixis's mechanical components whirred as she processed this information. "You're suggesting that our normal first contact and integration procedures are somehow harmful? Not harmful in intent, but devastating in result. When the EI hegemony encounters a species like early humanity, the standard protocol is evaluation, resource assessment, and integration into existing power structures. The younger species loses its independence and unique developmental path." Dr. Kellach's bioluminescent patterns flickered with distress. "But we provide technology, medical advances, protection from cosmic threats. Integration has benefited countless species. Integration as junior partners," the voice corrected. "Never as equals. Your gift of technology creates dependency rather than genuine advancement. The species you help become stagnant, losing the innovative drive that made them interesting in the first place." Admiral Corex found himself defending millennia of galactic policy. Surely some guidance is better than allowing species to destroy themselves with primitive weapons or environmental collapse. Observe. The space around them shimmered, and suddenly they were viewing Earth's surface directly despite being billions of kilometers away. The planet appeared as it would look from orbit, but with impossible detail and clarity. "Current Earth," the voice narrated. 7 billion humans struggling with climate change, resource depletion, political conflicts, and the challenges of becoming a spacefaring civilization. Their solutions will be uniquely human, chaotic, creative, and ultimately more robust than anything imposed from outside. The view shifted, showing an alternate Earth where massive alien structures dominated the landscape. Humans moved between gleaming towers, but their movement seemed listless, purposeless. Earth under standard hegemony integration protocols. Human population reduced to 2 billion for optimal resource management. Technology provided rather than developed. Conflicts eliminated through neural adjustment protocols. The species that once dreamed of touching the stars now serves as administrators for alien interests. The contrast was stark. The integrated Earth looked peaceful and prosperous, but somehow hollow. The humans in that timeline moved like sleepwalkers through their perfect cities. This is why we intervene, the voice continued. Not just for humanity, but for all species that show potential for unique contributions to galactic civilization. We have learned that diversity of thought and approach is more valuable than unity of purpose. Dr. Zenthis studied the projections with scientific fascination. How many species have you protected this way? 47 across various timelines and galactic regions, each one developing along their natural path, contributing innovations that would never have emerged under traditional integration protocols. Commander Voss asked the question that troubled him most. What about the crews of those captured fleets? They've been held for months while their families think they're dead. Time moves differently within the preservation fields, the voice explained. From their perspective, they've experienced only minutes since entering our protection. When they return to their homeworlds, they will have aged perhaps a single day. And they will return? Admiral Corex demanded. Of course. Our goal is protection, not conquest. However, they will return with a choice to make. The mysterious craft moved closer to the investigation fleet, and its hull began to shift and flow like liquid metal. Sections extended outward, forming what appeared to be docking ports perfectly matched to each ship in the fleet. We invite you aboard to see what we have learned about galactic development, to understand why the current system must change and how species like ours can work together as true equals rather than hierarchical dependencies. Dr. Zenthis felt excitement warring with caution in her mind. What guarantees do we have that this isn't a trap? None, beyond the logic of our position. If we wished to capture or destroy your fleet, we could have done so before you detected our presence. We invite you aboard because we believe you represent the kind of thinking that could help reshape galactic civilization. Admiral Corex made the command decision. I'll go aboard with a small diplomatic team. The rest of the fleet maintains position and monitoring protocols. A wise precaution, the voice agreed. Dr. Zenthis, Commander Voss, Engineer Thrixis, and Dr. Kellick, your diverse perspectives would be valuable for this discussion. As the selected team prepared to transfer to the mysterious craft, Dr. Zenthis couldn't shake the feeling that they were about to witness something that would fundamentally change their understanding of what it meant to be an advanced civilization. The docking process was unlike anything they had experienced. Instead of mechanical connections and airlocks, the craft's hull simply flowed around their shuttle, enveloping it completely. They found themselves in a chamber that seemed to exist in more dimensions than normal space allowed. Welcome aboard, said a figure that materialized before them. It appeared human but with subtle differences, slightly taller, with eyes that seemed to hold depths of experience impossible for any mortal being. I am what you might call a spokesperson, though I am also genuinely Marcus Voss from a timeline where humanity developed differently. Commander Voss stared at his alternate self in fascination and horror. Are you suggesting that you're me from another timeline? One possible you from one possible future. There are many Marcus Vosses across the dimensional matrix, each shaped by different choices and circumstances. We draw upon the collective experience of all human timelines to guide our decisions. Dr. Zenthis realized the staggering implications. You're not just time travelers. You're multidimensional beings drawing upon the experiences of every possible human future. Now you begin to understand the scope of what we protect. The future, Marcus replied. Not just individual species, but the infinite potential of what they might become. The chamber around them began to display images of galactic civilizations in countless timeline variations. Some thrived in diverse, chaotic glory. Others stagnated in peaceful uniformity. The message was clear. The path of development mattered more than the destination. The future Marcus led them deeper into the craft, through corridors that seemed to shift and adapt to their movement. Dr. Zenthis noticed that the walls displayed flowing patterns of data, not just information, but what appeared to be living streams of consciousness and memory. This ship, Engineer Thrixis observed, her mechanical sensors working overtime, isn't constructed in any conventional sense. It appears to be grown rather than built. Correct, their guide confirmed. When humanity learns to transcend the boundaries between organic and synthetic, between individual and collective consciousness, The line between creator and creation becomes meaningless. This vessel is as much a part of us as we are of it. They entered a vast chamber where the walls displayed windows into different realities. Through one, they saw a galaxy where the hegemony had never formed, and thousands of young species developed independently in a chaotic but vibrant civilization. Through another, they witnessed a sterile cosmos where only 3 ancient empires remained, having absorbed or eliminated all younger species. The mathematics of galactic development are complex, the future Marcus explained. Each intervention creates ripple effects across multiple timelines. We must be careful not to become the very force we seek to prevent, a dominating influence that stifles natural growth. Dr. Kellock approached one of the viewing windows, his plant-like form swaying with distress. In my culture, we believe in nurturing growth through guidance. Are you saying our attempts to help younger species are actually harmful? Not harmful in intent, their host replied, but consider this scenario. The chamber around them transformed into a vast garden. They stood among representations of different civilizations as flowering plants, each with unique characteristics and growth patterns. The Valkyrian approach to cultivation, the future Marcus continued, involves careful pruning, optimal nutrition, and protection from harsh conditions. Beautiful gardens result, with plants that grow tall and strong within defined parameters. The garden before them displayed neat rows of identical flowers, each perfect in its symmetry and health. But observe what happens when you apply the same techniques to every species of plant. The scene shifted, showing the same garden management applied to wildly different species. Desert plants withered under careful watering. Climbing vines grew stunted without support to climb. Arctic flowers died in the carefully controlled warmth. Each species requires different conditions to reach its full potential, Dr. Zenthis realized. What helps one may harm another. Precisely. The current galactic model assumes that what worked for the hegemony's development will work for everyone, but humanity's chaotic, competitive nature requires different conditions than the Valkyrians' collaborative harmony. Commander Voss studied his future self with growing understanding. You're saying that our struggle, our conflicts, our imperfections, they're not bugs to be fixed, but features that drive innovation. Human creativity emerges from pressure, conflict, and the need to overcome limitations. Remove those challenges through advanced alien technology, and you remove the very conditions that make humanity unique. Engineer Thrixus accessed her data banks, processing historical records. But surely some guidance prevents catastrophic mistakes. Many species destroy themselves before achieving spaceflight. The chamber displayed a new scene, Earth during various historical periods. They watched humans surviving ice ages, plague, war, and environmental disasters. Humanity has faced extinction dozens of times, the future Marcus noted. Each crisis forced adaptation, innovation, cooperation across previous boundaries. Those who survive such trials develop resilience that can't be taught or given. What about the species that don't survive? Admiral Corex asked grimly. Surely preventing extinction is worth some loss of independence. That assumes survival is the highest value, their host replied. We have seen timelines where humanity survives but loses its essential nature. Which is preferable? A humanity that burns bright and briefly, reaching for impossible dreams, or one that endures forever in comfortable mediocrity? Dr. Zenthis found herself questioning fundamental assumptions about civilization and progress. How do you decide which species to protect? What criteria determine who receives this? Intervention? We look for potential that transcends current circumstances. Species that show creativity under pressure, that develop unique solutions to universal problems, that demonstrate the ability to grow beyond their origins. Not all young civilizations possess these qualities. The viewing windows shifted again, showing various protected species across the galaxy. Each one followed radically different developmental paths, some technological, some biological, some exploring directions that had no names in conventional science. The Zephyrian crystalline matrix consciousness, Dr. Zenthis observed. They're completely different from their current form. In one timeline, they remain energy-based individuals. In another, they become a collective crystal intelligence spanning multiple star systems. Both paths offer unique insights into the nature of consciousness and reality. Commander Voss asked the question that had been building in his mind. What's the endgame here? Where does this protection lead? To a galaxy where advancement comes from diversity rather than uniformity, where each species contributes something unique that couldn't have developed under external guidance, where the sum becomes far greater than its parts. A new display materialized, showing a galaxy filled with hundreds of distinct civilizations, each following their own path but somehow interconnected in a vast web of cooperation and exchange. No hegemonies, Admiral Corex noted. No dominant empires absorbing smaller species. No need for them. When each species develops their full potential, they become irreplaceable contributors to galactic civilization. The Valkyrian biological mastery, the Krillian engineering excellence, the Zephyrian energy manipulation, all enhanced by remaining true to their essential natures. Engineer Thrixis ran calculations on her internal processors. The complexity would be enormous. Coordinating hundreds of independent civilizations without central authority. Coordination emerges naturally when each participant brings unique value that others cannot replicate. Trade becomes cooperation, becomes partnership between equals. Dr. Kellick's bioluminescent patterns flickered with concern. But the current system provides stability, predictable development, protection from cosmic threats. What you're describing sounds like controlled chaos. Exactly, the future Marcus smiled. Chaos that creates rather than destroys, unpredictability that breeds innovation, risk that drives growth. The chamber began to shift again, preparing to show them something new. Dr. Zenthis sensed they were approaching the core of why they had been brought here. "You've shown us theory and possibility," she said, "but what do you actually want from us? What choice are we supposed to make?" "The choice facing your civilizations is simple to state, difficult to implement," their host replied. "Continue the current system of integration and absorption, eventually creating a galaxy of dependent client species, or begin transitioning to a model of true equality and independence." "And if we refuse?" Admiral Corex asked. "Then the protection continues. More expeditions will disappear when they approach protected species. The galaxy remains divided between those who develop naturally and those who remain under current integration policies." Commander Voss realized the magnitude of what was being proposed. "You're talking about completely restructuring galactic civilization, abandoning policies that have maintained peace for millennia." "We're talking about evolution," the future Marcus corrected. "The current system has run its course. It was necessary for a younger galaxy, but continued implementation will lead to stagnation and eventual decline." Dr. Zenthis felt the weight of choice settling upon them. They weren't just investigators anymore. They were delegates who would return to their civilizations with a proposal that could change everything. What happens to the captured fleets? They will be returned with the same choice. Each crew will have experienced our explanation of the situation. Each individual will decide whether to support the transition to a new galactic model or maintain the status quo. The chamber around them began to pulse with gentle energy, signaling that their time aboard the craft was nearing an end. "Take time to consider what you've learned," the future Marcus advised. "Discuss it among your civilizations. The transformation we propose cannot be forced. It must be chosen freely by those ready to embrace true galactic diversity." The diplomatic team returned to their fleet in contemplative silence, each processing the revolutionary implications of what they had experienced. As their shuttle docked with the quantum insight, Dr. Zenthis realized that everything she thought she knew about galactic civilization had been fundamentally challenged. Admiral Corex called an immediate conference among all ship commanders. The fleet's senior officers gathered via holographic link, their various alien forms creating a tableau of the galactic diversity that was now at the center of this unprecedented crisis. "Report," demanded Captain Zaris of the Hegemony battlecruiser, her forearms gesturing impatiently. "What did you learn from these future humans?" Dr. Zenthis took the lead, knowing that her scientific credentials might lend weight to their extraordinary claims. "We encountered representatives of humanity from multiple timeline branches, beings who have transcended normal limitations of space and time. They are protecting Earth and other developing species from what they see as premature integration into galactic civilization." The reaction was immediate and heated. Captain Thoros of the Krillian destroyer rose from his seat, his chitinous armor clicking with agitation. "You're asking us to believe that a species that hasn't achieved interstellar flight has somehow mastered dimensional travel? Not the current humans, Commander Voss clarified. They're descendants from possible futures where humanity developed without interference. They're reaching back through time to ensure certain developmental paths remain open. The technology we witnessed, Engineer Thrixus added, operates on principles beyond our current understanding. Matter manipulation at the quantum level, consciousness projection across dimensional barriers, temporal manipulation that affects multiple timeline branches simultaneously. Dr. Kellock's bioluminescent patterns pulsed with distress. Even if we accept these claims, what they're proposing would destabilize everything we've built. Thousands of years of carefully managed galactic development. They argue that our careful management is actually stifling natural development, Dr. Zenthis replied, that we're creating dependency rather than fostering genuine advancement. Captain Zephys of the crystal ship Harmony spoke in harmonics that translated as deep concern. Our people achieved energy transcendence through hegemony guidance programs. Without that assistance, we might never have evolved beyond our physical crystalline matrix. Or you might have evolved in completely different directions that would offer even greater contributions to galactic knowledge. Commander Voss suggested. That's their point. We'll never know what we lost by following standardized development paths. Admiral Corex pulled up fleet communications data. While we were aboard their vessel, the preserved fleets began awakening. Initial reports suggest their crews experienced the same educational presentation we received. They're being given the same choice about galactic civilization's future. The implications rippled through the assembled commanders. If every crew member from 17 different fleets returned to their home worlds with the same revolutionary message, the political upheaval would be enormous. What specific choice are we being offered? Asked Captain Zaris, her military mind focusing on practical details. Dr. Zenthis consulted her notes. Transition to a new model of galactic civilization based on true equality between species, allowing natural development without integration pressure, or maintain the current system while accepting that certain species will remain under temporal protection. In other words, Captain Thoros growled, abandon our successful expansion model or face ongoing interference from time-traveling humans. That's an overly simplified interpretation, Dr. Kellock protested. They're offering partnership between equals rather than the hierarchical integration we've always practiced. Engineer Thrixus ran rapid calculations. The logistical challenges would be staggering. Our current system provides centralized resource allocation, standardized technology sharing, unified defense against cosmic threats. Replacing that with hundreds of independent civilizations would require completely new approaches to interstellar cooperation, Commander Voss finished. But it might also unlock innovations we can't imagine under the current system. Admiral Corex activated long-range communications. I'm receiving reports from across the galaxy. The news about our missing fleets is spreading, along with rumors about the real reason for their disappearance. Several species are demanding immediate action. The strategic implications were becoming clear. Word of the future humans' intervention would reshape galactic politics whether they chose to act on it or not. Some species would see it as a threat requiring military response. Others might view it as an opportunity to escape hegemony dominance. We need to consider the possibility, Captain Zephys noted, that this choice is being forced upon us regardless of our preferences. If other species learn that development without integration is possible, they may demand it. Dr. Zenthis studied the data streams from Earth, watching the peaceful blue planet that had become the center of galactic upheaval. There's something else we should consider. The future humans showed us multiple timeline branches where different choices led to different outcomes. What if our decision here determines which timeline becomes reality? The weight of that possibility silenced the assembled officers. They weren't just choosing policy for their own civilizations. They might be choosing the fate of the entire galaxy. I propose, Admiral Corex said carefully, that we request a demonstration. If these future humans can show us concrete examples of species that have developed successfully under their protection, it would help inform our decision. Commander Voss activated his communication link to the mysterious craft. We would like to see evidence of successful natural development among the species you've protected. The response came immediately, not through their communication systems, but as the same direct consciousness contact they had experienced before. Granted. Prepare for temporal observation of protected species across galactic history. The space around their fleet shimmered, and suddenly they were viewing a star system 40 light-years away. The displays showed a thriving civilization of crystalline beings who had developed biotechnology that merged seamlessly with their silicon-based physiology. The resonant collective, the future human voice explained, protected from hegemony integration 300 years ago. They have developed harmonic technologies that can heal damaged ecosystems across entire planets. The scene shifted to show another system where aquatic beings had created underwater cities that existed partially in normal space and partially in what appeared to be pocket dimensions. The Deep Singers. Their dimensional architecture could revolutionize space habitat construction, but only developed because they were allowed to pursue their natural affinity for spatial manipulation. System after system appeared in their displays, each showing civilizations that had developed along unique paths, impossible under standard integration protocols. The diversity was staggering. Energy beings who communicated through stellar manipulation, gas giant dwellers who had learned to predict cosmic events through atmospheric analysis, silicon-based hive minds that could process calculations across multiple dimensions simultaneously. Each of these civilizations, the voice continued, offers knowledge and capabilities that no integrated species has ever achieved. Their combined potential far exceeds what they could have contributed as client species under traditional development. Dr. Kellick's patterns flickered with amazement. The biotechnology alone could solve resource scarcity across the galaxy, and that dimensional architecture could provide unlimited living space without requiring new planets. Engineer Thrixus finished. The applications are revolutionary. Captain Thoros remained skeptical. But how do we know these examples are real? How do we verify that these aren't fabricated scenarios designed to convince us? An excellent question, the voice acknowledged. We invite you to send verification teams to any of these civilizations. Establish contact, evaluate their technology, confirm their developmental history. Take as long as you need to satisfy your skepticism. Admiral Corex realized they were being offered an unprecedented opportunity. You're willing to allow us to investigate your protected species directly? Transparency is essential for informed decision-making. Additionally, it will allow these civilizations to evaluate whether they wish to participate in the new galactic model we're proposing. The scope of the choice before them was becoming clear. They weren't just deciding policy for existing civilizations. They were potentially opening contact with dozens of advanced species whose existence had been hidden for centuries. Dr. Zenthis felt the weight of history pressing down upon them. How long do we have to make this decision? There is no deadline imposed by us, the voice replied. However, the knowledge of our intervention is now spreading across galactic civilization. Political pressures will likely force a decision within your standard cycle. As if summoned by those words, Admiral Corex's communication system activated with urgent priority signals from multiple hegemony worlds. The galaxy was demanding answers, and the investigation fleet found themselves at the center of a crisis that would reshape the future of countless civilizations. 6 months after the revelation in the Sol system, the Galaxy Council convened in the largest assembly ever recorded. Representatives from every known civilization filled the massive space station orbiting the galactic core, while countless more participated through quantum communication links. The question that brought them together would determine the future of galactic civilization itself. Dr. Lyra Zenthis stood before the assembly, her crystalline form now bearing new bioluminescent patterns that marked her as a witness to the impossible. Beside her, the other members of the investigation team prepared to present their findings to a galaxy waiting for answers. Honored delegates, she began, her voice carrying across the vast chamber. 6 months ago, we set out to solve a simple mystery. Why were our fleets vanishing near Earth? What we discovered changed everything we thought we knew about development, independence, and the true potential of galactic civilization. The verification missions had been completed. Teams from every major civilization had visited the protected species, confirming their existence and marveling at their unique technological developments. The evidence was undeniable. Alternative paths of development led to innovations impossible under traditional integration. Admiral Corex stepped forward, his weathered features showing the strain of months spent mediating between competing factions. The protected civilizations have agreed to share their knowledge freely with any species that chooses the new path. They offer partnership based on mutual benefit rather than hierarchical absorption. The response from across the galaxy had been mixed and intense. Some civilizations embraced the opportunity for true independence and unique development. Others feared the chaos and instability that might result from abandoning proven systems. A few had declared the future humans to be an existential threat requiring military action. Commander Voss, now serving as humanity's official representative despite his species' technological limitations, addressed the concerns about Earth's role. The future humans have made it clear they will not impose their will on anyone. The choice of development path remains with each individual civilization. They offer protection only to those who explicitly request it. Engineer Thrixus presented the technical analysis that had consumed months of collaborative research. We have confirmed that the temporal manipulation technology exists and functions as described. The future humans operate across multiple timeline branches, ensuring that various developmental paths remain possible rather than forcing specific outcomes. Dr. Kelleck's plant-like form swayed with emotional resonance as he shared the biological research findings. The genetic diversity of naturally developed species shows capabilities we had not imagined. Forced integration appears to create evolutionary bottlenecks that limit long-term potential. The debate that followed raged for weeks. The hegemony leadership argued for maintaining stability through proven methods. Younger species demanded the right to choose their own paths. Client civilizations questioned whether they could survive without integration support. Council Speaker Morpheus, ancient beyond measure, finally called for order. We have heard all perspectives. The time has come to decide not just policy, but the fundamental nature of what we call galactic civilization. The voting process was unlike anything in galactic history. Rather than a simple majority decision, each species would choose its own path. Those selecting traditional integration could continue under hegemony guidance. Those choosing independence would receive protection from interference during their natural development. As the votes registered from across the galaxy, patterns emerged that surprised everyone. Many established civilizations chose to maintain their current arrangements, fearing the risks of change, but a significant number of client species voted for independence, willing to accept uncertainty in exchange for the chance at unique development. Most surprisingly, several major powers, including the Zephyrian Empire and a faction of the Velcarian communes, chose to experiment with the new model, establishing protectorates for their own younger species while pursuing independent technological development. Dr. Zenthis watched the results with fascination. "We're not seeing a single choice," she observed, "but the emergence of multiple coexisting models of galactic civilization." The future human voice, now familiar to most delegates through direct communication, addressed the assembly one final time. This diversity of approach is exactly what we hope to achieve. Competition between different models will drive innovation in galactic development itself. No single approach will dominate, and all will have the opportunity to prove their worth. Commander Voss felt a strange pride as he watched Earth's blue marble displayed on the central screen. His species had inadvertently become the catalyst for galactic transformation without even knowing about the existence of other civilizations. "What about the missing fleets?" asked Captain Xeris, speaking for thousands of families who had mourned their lost crew members. "They are being returned now," came the response. Each individual has been given the choice of sharing their experience or remaining silent about what they learned. Most have chosen to become advocates for the new development models in their home civilizations. As the assembly concluded, Dr. Zenthis realized they had witnessed the birth of something unprecedented, a galaxy choosing diversity over uniformity, growth over stability, potential over certainty. The implementation would take generations. Transition protocols needed to be developed for species choosing independence. New forms of interstellar cooperation had to be created for civilizations that would no longer share unified systems. Trade agreements, defense pacts, and scientific collaborations all required complete restructuring. But the most remarkable change was already visible. Young species that had lived for centuries under integration policies were rediscovering aspects of their nature that had been dormant. Art, music, and philosophy began reflecting cultural perspectives that had been suppressed by standardization. Scientific research branched into directions that had never been explored under unified development protocols. Admiral Corex, now heading the new Galactic Diversity Commission, sent regular reports about emerging innovations. The Resonant Collective's harmonic healing technology had already begun restoring damaged ecosystems on 17 worlds. The Deep Singer's dimensional architecture was revolutionizing space habitat design. Former client species were developing solutions to problems that had stymied advanced civilizations for millennia. Commander Voss returned to Earth with a strange mission, preparing his species for eventual contact with a galaxy that would respect their right to develop naturally. The irony wasn't lost on him that humanity's greatest contribution to galactic civilization might be serving as an example of what was possible when species were allowed to find their own way. Dr. Zenthis established a new research institute dedicated to studying natural species development. Her work documented the explosion of creativity and innovation that emerged when civilizations were freed from integration pressures. The diversity of solutions to universal problems suggested that the galaxy's potential had been vastly underestimated. The future humans, having achieved their goal of preventing galactic stagnation, began withdrawing their direct involvement. Their temporal manipulations became more subtle, focusing on preventing catastrophic conflicts rather than managing development. The galaxy was learning to grow through diversity rather than uniformity. Years later, as Dr. Zenthis compiled her final report on the transformation, she reflected on the simple question that had started everything. Why do alien fleets keep vanishing near Earth? The answer had reshaped galactic civilization itself. The fleets had vanished because someone was protecting the right of species to become what they truly could be, rather than what others expected them to become. In doing so, they had revealed that the galaxy's greatest strength lay not in unity of purpose, but in the infinite creativity that emerged when every civilization was free to reach for its own impossible dreams. The mystery of the vanishing fleets had been solved, but it had given birth to a far greater mystery, discovering what the galaxy could become when every species was free to contribute its unique gifts to the cosmic community. The answer, emerging across countless worlds and cultures, suggested that they had only just begun to explore the true potential of galactic civilization.